Okay, fantastic. So welcome everyone. Here we are with the Defi Clinic on a Friday with Oscar and Bunny, actually Dev Oski and Dev Banayard, right? How are you?
Great, thank you. It's good to be here again.
Fantastic. So let's maybe start today talking about Ethereum, because all the concept of DeFi is mainly on the Ethereum chain, and there are a lot of things happening. So I think it will be good just to break down on what Ethereum is, just to start, and then everything that has been built on Ethereum to allow the DeFi infrastructure.
Sure. And so Ethereum is a cryptocurrency and blockchain. And essentially the way that Ethereum differentiated itself in the beginning was not only is it a blockchain where you can move Ethereum from one place to another in a discrete and decentralized way, but they've also got a set of smart contracts and a smart contract protocol that runs on their virtual machine, which allows people to make any type of decentralized application that they can think of in their mind. And so any computer program that you could build on a traditional computer, you can also build on the Ethereum virtual machine, but in a decentralized way. And so that's basically what Ethereum is. And since the invention of Ethereum in 2014, we've seen a lot of different evolutions on the style of programs that people have built in this system, the style of decentralized applications, and the use cases of these decentralized applications in the space. And something that is really hot topic right now is decentralized finance. So applications in finance that are built in a decentralized way, and also NFTs, so non-fungible assets that can be transferred around the metaverse and around the blockchain ecosystem.
So basically, there are lots of opportunity for people to actually make money on crypto rather than just hodling, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different software suites that allow you to, for example, stake your assets and earn APY. And there's a whole bunch of different technology out there now that allows users to do quite complicated things with their cryptocurrency that are beyond just purchasing a ERC20 token or something like that and then hoping that it goes up. So we're really seeing like an evolution of new technologies in the cryptocurrency space that enable people to not only purchase a cryptocurrency, but also use that asset in more ways than just holding it as a store of value.
Exactly. And I think this is what people are looking for, because it's not just about speculating on a currency. It's also about how can I earn a passive income with a crypto and make money that way. So shall we maybe break down on that so everybody watching the video can understand how they get set up? For example, also with their MetaMask wallet, which is one of the things they're required, how they can connect to website, which are the website, and how they can earn these good APY.
Sure. Well, maybe Oscar, if you talk a little bit about your Connect page, maybe that would be like a good segue to introduce how that all works and how that's making it easier for new users to connect to different blockchains.
Yeah, okay, sure. So basically, if you want to connect to one of these cryptocurrency networks, otherwise known as blockchains, you need a wallet, which basically acts as your interface into the network. It's your gateway into the network. And so MetaMask is probably the most popular wallet used by most people. And using MetaMask, you can connect to a variety of different cryptocurrency networks, such as Ethereum, such as Polygon, such as Binance Smart Chain, things like that. And so what you'd have to do is you'd have to go to the MetaMask website. I think it's metamask.org or metamask.com, one of those, and then configure your MetaMask wallet to connect to whichever network you need to connect to interact with whatever decentralized application you need to interact with. And so it used to be in the past that you would have to go into your settings and you would have to type in quite a lot of complicated information about how to connect to the particular network and some details that are specific to that network. But what Umbria has done is they've come out with a website where you can just go to a simple web page and it will automatically configure your MetaMask wallet for you. So that's umbria.network/connect. And on that website, there's about 1,000 different cryptocurrency networks that have different applications on them, such as Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, and it's really just made that whole process of onboarding onto whatever cryptocurrency network you need to be on so much easier. So once you've set up your MetaMask wallet, then it's time to decide sort of which platform, which application you want to use. And there's all different kinds of things you can do with cryptocurrency, such as lending on platforms like Aave, or doing decentralized trading of assets on platforms like Uni Swap. And so there's just a lot of opportunities out there to sort of take more ownership of your capital than would previously be possible using like the traditional banking system.
Yeah, and so if you're a brand new beginner looking to get into cryptocurrency and decentralized applications, the first thing you're going to need to do is figure out which blockchain you would like to use. And for simplicity, most people stick with Ethereum in the beginning. And so if you choose Ethereum, what you're going to need to do is, first of all, get a wallet, but you're also going to have to get some Ethereum to put into your wallet so you can pay for all of the transactions when you're interacting with any of the smart contracts, or you're paying for something on the blockchain. And so the best way to get Ethereum in the beginning is to go to an exchange that has something called an off-ramp, which basically allows you to purchase Ethereum with fiat currency, whether it be US dollar, British pound, or whatever your local currency is. So the first step is getting a wallet with MetaMask, but you're also going to have to make an account with an exchange like Coinbase or Binance or KuCoin, buy some Ethereum from there, and then put that Ethereum onto your wallet, and then you can start interacting with all of these technologies.
Okay, so are we recommending MetaMask as the wallet that people should get, or can they get any kind of wallet that will connect to this platform that Oscar mentioned before?
Well, I would definitely recommend that as a beginner, you should start by using MetaMask, because it seems that the space has kind of gravitated towards being very MetaMask friendly and highly compatible with MetaMask. And so if there is a decentralized application that you want to use or you want to become a part of, almost all of them will accept MetaMask as a wallet that can be used to interact with the software. There are other wallets that do other different things. For example, there are something called hardware wallets, which is a way to make your cryptocurrency wallet even more secure. But sometimes with hardware wallets, particularly with the Ledger wallet, for example, there have been some compatibility issues with certain applications and certain features of these blockchains, right? So I would say for any beginner who's just entering the space right now, it's very important to start with something that's going to be very compatible with everything, and MetaMask is a very good option for that.
Yeah,
okay.
Coinbase wallet is another popular one, but even though that is probably the second most popular wallet, it's still way not as compatible as MetaMask. I would say that 99% of places will accept MetaMask, and maybe only 50 or 60% will accept Coinbase wallet. And so it's definitely worth getting MetaMask as a beginning place, and then you can always move to another wallet at any given time if you like.
I think one of the things that I would like really to make the point is just to be careful that the wallet won't work on all the different chain. And I think people should be very careful when they are sending funds. I mean, if you have Coinbase, okay, so go on Coinbase, get some Ethereum, and then it's okay to transfer it to MetaMask because it would accept it. But what about, nowadays there are so many tokens on, for example, Pancake Swap, Binance Smart Chain, and people just think they can use one wallet for everything. But this is not the case. So maybe let's spend a bit of time just to make sure that we raise up the heads on something that is very important to understand.
Sure. And so that is another reason I think MetaMask is a really good choice for beginners, because you can configure MetaMask to connect to most Ethereum-like blockchains. So that includes Ethereum, Polygon, it includes Binance Smart Chain, and a whole bunch of other blockchains that are very similar to Ethereum. So the chances are, if you have a MetaMask wallet, with a few exceptions, you will be able to connect to all of these dApps that might not necessarily be running on Ethereum, like PancakeSwap, as you suggested. And so there are other wallets. I'm not sure if Coinbase Wallet and Binance Wallet support other blockchains, but for sure MetaMask does. And I think that's one of the reasons why it has been adopted the most by the community, is because it's so compatible. And once you have that wallet, you're pretty much able to access 95% of all the dApps that are available on the space. It is important to know, though, when you're choosing a dApp to interact with, like PancakeSwap, you have to know which blockchain that application is running on, so that you can make sure to send your assets to the right blockchain, so you can interact with that application. For example, if you wanted to use PancakeSwap and your Ethereum is on the Ethereum blockchain, you're not going to be able to interact with PancakeSwap until you move your assets from Ethereum onto the Binance Smart Chain.
Yeah, and I'll just add on the end there that there are a couple of blockchains out there, like you mentioned, that are not compatible with MetaMask. Networks like Solana do not have any MetaMask integration. However, as a beginner, if you're not that familiar with the space yet, you're probably not going to be using Solana as your first entry point. At least I would say that's probably quite unlikely. Because 99% of the dApps that are famous and widely used are based on Ethereum, and then sometimes they branch out into other chains for particular use cases. But a lot of stuff that does appear on Polygon and Binance Smart Chain and the like does actually appear on Ethereum as kind of like the main hub. So if you are a beginner and you're looking to sort of dip your toes in this ecosystem, I would definitely suggest looking at Ethereum-based stuff first, and then branching out into all the other kind of colorful, strange places in the crypto ecosystem.
Okay, so Uniswap or SushiSwap?
Say again?
That's tough.
Uniswap.
SushiSwap? Yeah,
SushiSwap as well.
You like SushiSwap? I like Uniswap. I like Uniswap purely because it is kind of like the first DEX, and also it has a really strong legacy behind it, and it's very trustworthy as well. All the people that run Uniswap have public faces, and so you can be sure who's running it and that kind of thing. SushiSwap is also great, although it's a little bit more secretive and a little bit more spicy in my opinion. There have been problems in the past with members pulling out liquidity and rug pulling people and that kind of thing, and then coming back and giving the assets back. And so they've just got a little bit more of a spicy history. Both are great applications, but for me, I'm definitely a Uniswap, a unicorn guy.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly right. And also, like, for me, I guess it just depends like where your values lie. For a project that you might want to investigate or maybe trade or invest in, I think SushiSwap is very interesting because they're always innovating and they're always sort of building new things. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but they're always trying to build out new stuff. So as a project that's interesting to watch and speculate on what might happen to their price, I would definitely say that SushiSwap's a lot more exciting to think about than Uniswap. But like you say, Barney, Uniswap has that legacy. They have one thing that works really, really well, and they're kind of one of the first decentralized exchanges, at least the first main one that's widely adopted. So they're both very different beasts, and both very cool for different reasons, I would say.
Yeah, and I would also just quickly add that Uniswap does seem to be taking on some of the practices now that SushiSwap are doing in terms of moving a bit faster and implementing new and exciting things. They've just finished a DAO proposal to add Uniswap to the Polygon chain, and that's going to be a really big deal for Uniswap. And so that's something that's a bit unprecedented as well with their system. They've always been quite slow moving and careful in their implementation of new things, and so moving their entire application to also incorporate the Polygon blockchain, that's going to be a really interesting thing that comes up in the next few months.
Okay, but what people can do when they connect their MetaMask wallet to Uniswap, for example, let's start with that.
Sure. So Uniswap is probably the biggest decentralized exchange on Ethereum. And what a decentralized exchange is basically a place where you can swap one of your assets, let's say Tether, for another asset like USDC or wrapped Ethereum or any other asset that Ethereum supports, basically. And so in the beginning, when we had just Bitcoin, people built centralized exchanges where you could buy and sell Bitcoin and maybe other assets like Litecoin and Ethereum when that came out. And that's great. But the problem with the space is often these exchanges will get hacked because the security isn't very good, or they'll be randomly shut down because of regulatory problems or because the developers have run off with the money or whatever it might be. And so it's not particularly secure to have all of your funds in one of these centralized exchanges because of all of the problems that might happen in the future. But in 2017 or 2018, Uniswap was developed, and it was called ETHLend at the time. And basically, it was a solution to a lot of these security problems in terms of the problem of centralization and people being able to get your funds and take them away from you without you having any power. With Uniswap, you have your own keys, you have your own funds. And so none of the people who work at Uniswap are able to come into the blockchain and steal your assets. And that's why it's so valuable as an exchange.
Okay, and what else I can do on SushiSwap that is a bit more creative, for example?
Oh, well, for example, I'm not sure if they have launched it yet or if they're just about to launch it, but SushiSwap have got an NFT platform. They've got all kinds of strange and wonderful lending opportunities. And they also, of course, have a decentralized exchange just like Uniswap. But SushiSwap also have other ways you can earn extra income by providing liquidity to the decentralized exchange. So you can add your liquidity to the exchange, they'll give you a special token, and then you can lock that special token up in SushiSwap in a process called farming to earn even more return on your investment. And so that is a good thing in some ways, because it's nice to have lots of different opportunities, but at the same time, they're not as tried or tested or as pure as you might consider Uniswap. So they're quite different in that sense, but both still quite interesting projects to check out.
Yeah, and Uniswap does have a staking mechanism where you can add a pair of assets into the system, and then when people swap between those two pairs that you've added, you earn a fee on that. And then basically SushiSwap came after Uniswap. They adopted the same model as that, but they also added a extra step, which was a farming mechanism in which if you provided those assets into their pool, not only did you earn fees from people swapping those two assets, but you also earned additional sushi from the SushiSwap protocol as well. And that's why we saw a massive migration a couple of years ago from everyone using Uniswap to a lot of people moving their assets over to SushiSwap, because that extra sushi token that they were generating by providing liquidity meant that the return on investment they were getting from those assets was much higher.
Okay, that's very interesting. And where Aave fits in? So why somebody, instead of staking on Uniswap or SushiSwap, will go on a platform like Aave?
Well, I think we're still very new in the space, so we're still trying to figure out what the standard practices are within this space. And there's a lot of different projects, such as Aave, who are offering a very similar thing to SushiSwap and a similar thing to Uniswap, but they're skinning it up in a slightly different way. They might have a different lending feature, or a different way that they compound interest, or a different token with slightly different governance mechanisms. But I would say that Aave, much like SushiSwap and Uniswap, all fall under the umbrella of DeFi. It's just different flavors of a very similar thing. And so there's also Compound, who are doing a very interesting thing with governance at the moment. And they basically invented the on-chain governance style of kind of updating these protocols that all these different systems run. They've sort of invented a way that you can vote on proposals to changes to the protocol. So all these different projects that are all under the umbrella of DeFi have just taken slightly different philosophies on what's useful and what they should build and how they should build it and how they should govern their systems and all of that kind of thing. But I'd definitely say that there's similarities across all of these different platforms.
Yeah, and I would say the reason that people use these different platforms and don't all go into one platform is that a lot of these people are chasing APY. And so
I was just going to go on that.
Yeah, exactly. So you might be able to get 10% APY using Uniswap, but then another platform will be offering 50% APY or 100% APY on something for maybe a limited time, or maybe it's like a spicy trade that's got like a bit more risk to it. And so all these different platforms, they're all offering a return on investment on your assets, but they all have different mechanisms that allow them to generate that fee to give to you. And some of them have not very much risk, and then others have, a lot of risk. So it really depends on how much risk you're willing to take, what sort of returns you're looking to get, and how much assets you have as well makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting segue into kind of the next layer on top of all this stuff, which is these DeFi aggregators. Platforms where they have a look at all of the different offerings from all the different DeFi platforms and automatically move your assets between the different ones in the most optimal way to earn you the most money. So a good example of a decentralized finance aggregator would be Harvest Finance, where they just show you all of the different opportunities. You put your funds in there, and it all sorts it out for you and gets you the best deal. And so it seems like we're kind of in the stage now where we're not only sort of concerned with the individual platforms, but we're putting our funds into sort of the next layer on top, which is sorting everything out on the protocol layer and finding us the best deal, if that makes sense.
So where do people check out the best APY? I mean, what's the step for any kind of trade? No, it's not really a trader. It's more like an investor that say, okay, I've decided to put my money into a DeFi and I want to earn some passive income. Where do they see which is the better platform to put their assets in?
There's a lot of different places to look. One place that people look is the centralized exchange that they have most of their assets in. So Coinbase and Binance, they all have platforms where you can earn APY. Another place to look is coinmarketcap.com. They have a whole section dedicated purely to that. And you can see all the different assets that you are able to stake and how much APY you can get from each asset and all that kind of thing. And then also on all of these platforms where you provide your assets and receive an APY, they often will tell you how much you'll receive as well, and have long lists of different assets that you can provide, how much return on investment you'll get per year or per month or per day, and then you can decide from there where you would like to invest.
Okay, so now moving into NFTs, how people make money with NFTs? What's the logic behind it? It's just basically collect it and then, speculate the price goes up?
Yeah, that depends on the NFT, but in the beginning, it was definitely a very speculative market, and it was driven primarily by scarcity of the NFT and then also the hype behind the NFT. So a perfect example of that would be CryptoPunks. The punks themselves don't really serve any intrinsic purpose as a NFT in a blockchain sense. They serve a purpose in that somebody who owns an NFT can showcase they own that, and that gives them some kind of authority in the space. But beyond that, a CryptoPunk doesn't really have any utility on any particular blockchain application. And so really its inherent value comes from it being, the first of its kind as an asset, and also it being, rare and expensive. Beyond that, we've seen a next generation of NFTs that have more utility behind them beyond the scarcity factor and rarity factor. Things like horses in Zedrun. Zedrun's a game basically like horse racing, where you can breed your horses and you can race them and you can earn Ethereum when you win and that kind of thing. And so those horses earn their value depending on how fast they are and how well they breed new horses and that kind of thing. And beyond that, we're starting to see even more exotic and interesting NFTs that will allow you to earn a specific token for owning them, or perhaps they give you some kind of governance in a protocol or something like that. So it really depends on what the NFT is, what utility it has in the space, but also how rare it is and how scarce that NFT is in the space as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're reaching the end of the first kind of bubble of NFTs, where a lot of platforms were coming out and doing a set of collectible NFTs, where beyond the the initial mint and the actual art being secured on the blockchain, there was no particular utility beyond that. But now that we have layer 2 protocols that are able to do quite heavy computation on blockchains, such as Polygon, that wouldn't otherwise be possible on Ethereum. A lot of NFT platforms are now coming out with NFTs that are sort of based around entire applications, and the NFT itself is integrated within the application and gives the holder some sort of authority within the application, or access to some sort of feature within the application. And so now that we've come to the end, in my opinion, of this sort of like benign NFT that is just representative of some asset like art, we now have we've opened up the floodgates, and now there's opportunities for all these NFT platforms to create NFTs with more complicated and more compelling use cases.
Okay, let's maybe see how fees they come into the conversation, because Ethereum is well known for higher fees. So that's why, I was speaking to a few people the other day, and they said actually we are not using Ethereum, but we prefer Solana. And actually, some of them, they are using Phantom, claiming that the fees there, they are even lower than Solana. So why people are still sticking with Ethereum? Why is that?
Well, for Ethereum, it's much easier for new members of the cryptocurrency ecosystem to get involved in purchasing one of these NFTs, because a lot of people that are interested in NFTs aren't really particularly interested in the technicalities of cryptocurrency at like a protocol level. They're not really up to speed on layer 2 chains like Phantom and Solana and that kind of thing. And so that provides a really big barrier to entry for a lot of people who aren't really that technically savvy, who might still be interested in NFTs. Beyond that, I think that there's also been a thought in the community that an asset that's been minted on Ethereum has more intrinsic value purely because it's more expensive to mint on Ethereum. And so any asset that is on Ethereum does kind of have a scarcity value purely because not that many projects can afford to do all of their minting on the Ethereum blockchain. And a lot of users can't afford to pay for an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain because it tends to be, 10 or 20 times as expensive as something on Polygon, purely because it's so expensive to mint.
I think that's quite an interesting not concept, but really consideration around NFTs on Ethereum. So you think that, going forward, even if Ethereum is moving to a proof of stake, which is the next big challenge, and I would like also you to talk about that, do you think it's still going to be like quite a cool thing to have an NFT that has been minted on Ethereum and is on Ethereum chain?
Yeah, I think that the fact that the cost of using Ethereum is so expensive, that gives that keeps the price of a lot of this stuff high, because it means that people don't want to sell. Maybe they don't want to sell their assets because it's too expensive for gas fees and that kind of thing, and that puts a positive pressure on the Ethereum price. And it seems to me that every time gas prices spike, we do see a increase in the price of Ethereum as well because of that. And so I think that when we go to proof of stake, and if it does mean that things get 100 times cheaper to transact on the Ethereum blockchain, that actually might have a really negative impact on the price because people now have a lot more of a liquid movement in their assets, and so it gives the opportunity for people to sell their assets much more as well.
Okay, that's quite an interesting point. I think sometimes people
say something. I would just say that I don't think people will consider it like cool per se to have an NFT on Ethereum, because even though, yes, it might be more scarce and more valuable through its scarcity, it's also going to be quite limited if projects want to build more complicated systems around that NFT on Ethereum. Because whenever that NFT has to interact with some kind of software on Ethereum, it's going to be really expensive and really slow because of the nature of Ethereum's architecture. When in contrast with something like Polygon, where the technology is there that you can build sort of full-scale games and applications on top of the blockchain, that's just not possible in many cases for Ethereum. So if you do buy an Ethereum-based NFT, it's quite limited into what sort of technology can be built around it. And therefore, I would say it's a bit less of an attractive prospect than an NFT that might have some really amazing, complicated use case, and a lot more possibility to be a more useful item.
Yeah, it can still be. I mean, if I'm thinking of some like communities where they kind of really they like the fact that it's not open to everybody. There are high barriers, and it becomes more exclusive. So maybe for certain type of NFTs, that could be like a privilege being on the Ethereum chain. Exactly for what Barney said, that nobody can afford to get me, right? So that kind of maybe could be the cool stuff, but I do agree with you on the fact that, particularly if you are planning to use the NFT, being on Ethereum is going to be a massive limit to interact with your NFT. So maybe that will be the difference.
Yeah, and I think that there are also scarce, expensive NFTs on Polygon that also have a use case. And so there are some games, there's one game, for example, called The Red Village, where the set of their best NFTs that they've just dropped cost around an Ethereum each. And so that's pretty cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So I think not all NFTs are cheap on Polygon. You can also have like quite rare, exciting, scarce NFTs on Polygon. And so like just having an expensive NFT just for the sake of it being expensive to mint, I don't think that adds that much to the scarcity of the actual NFT, when you consider that a CryptoPunk, for example, could be worth $1 million, and the cost of minting that CryptoPunk, if you were going to mint something similar now, might only be a few $100s. That's quite like a harsh ratio.
So anybody new to the NFT space, where should they look to get an NFT?
I would say OpenSea is probably the best place to look, because with OpenSea, you have access to all of the NFTs that are on Ethereum, but also on Polygon as well. Beyond that, Sushi Swap are going to be either they're going to be or they've just released an NFT marketplace. So that's going to be an interesting one to look at. There's also Binance's NFT marketplace as well. But I think that OpenSea is probably the best one because you're going to have the biggest range of NFTs on that marketplace. And also that marketplace is open to anybody to add their NFT at any time. Whereas a lot of the marketplaces are curators as well that only pick certain items to be available on their marketplace.
Okay, and basically we kind of reached the conclusion. If you are new, it might be best to buy an NFT on Polygon just because it's cheaper. How do you see if an NFT is on Polygon or not? How you can identify that? Is that on the OpenSea page?
Yeah, it'll say on OpenSea.
Exactly, and it'll depend on which marketplace you're using, but I think probably all of them, if not almost all of them, are going to say in like a field somewhere on the webpage which blockchain that it's on.
I want to mention at this point Rarible, because it was one of the first NFT marketplace, and I think it got quite some nice traction. And then maybe because of they didn't have a layer 2 solution, they become less and less popular. How do you see the future of Rarible? I think they are going to implement a layer 2 very soon, very likely to be Polygon as well. So do you see them coming back?
Well, I think the problem with Rarible was that they minted way too many tokens for their artists. So if you create an NFT on Rarible, this is my understanding, you would get a stake of their weekly minted token I think it was every Tuesday. They would mint a bunch more tokens, and so every time. And there was a few times that Rarible kind of took the public interest and went a little bit viral, and then the price shot to the moon. But then it quickly crashed again because of just how many tokens they were minting and giving to their NFT collectors. So I think that a lot of their sorry, not their NFT collectors, but the people who are creating the NFTs. And I think the early investors and their community got a little bit upset by that, or a little bit disheartened by that, and that was I think a big impact on why they didn't necessarily rise to the top like OpenSea did.
Yeah, I also think that OpenSea just has such an amazing UI as well that really helps. It's really easy to use. It's really easy to mint an NFT through OpenSea as well. And I just think the overall experience, in my opinion, OpenSea is just like a little bit better of a user experience as a user of someone wanting to purchase or mint an NFT.
And also it's cheaper. I mean, we're Rarible, it was still expensive. I mean, I remember the time I did mint something, it was more expensive, and on OpenSea, it was cheap.
Yeah, and also on OpenSea, you can use Polygon, and so you can make it basically free as well these days. So I think that Rarible are going to have to really branch out into all these other blockchains, maybe differentiate themselves by doing a Solana marketplace, or doing a Phantom or Avalanche marketplace, or something a little bit different to bring back the audience's attention. Okay,
do you have any NFT on Binance Smart Chain?
Yes, me and my brother actually built an NFT project on Binance Smart Chain about 9 months ago, just to get a feel on like a technical level and how it all works. And we do have a few other NFTs on Binance Smart Chain. For me, I have most of my NFTs on Polygon and on Ethereum. I think that a lot of the really cool NFT work right now is happening on Polygon, just because the community there in terms of development and artists and that kind of thing is just so big. And there's a lot of great Discords where people can collaborate together and build awesome projects. And so I think Polygon is the place to go right now for NFTs.
Okay, lots of people are, also holding Ethereum, and there is the big move to the proof of stake that is happening, which is a big question mark. So, and also we mentioned Matic as well, which is the most layer 2 use in conjunction with Ethereum. That also they call them the Ethereum. The internet of blockchain and Ethereum scaling solution. That's it. So how do we see the future of Ethereum with the proof of stake coming up?
I think everybody has been, across time, very optimistic about what Ethereum can do and how easily we can solve all of Ethereum's problems. I remember back in 2016 when Barney and I were doing Bitcoin forks and really experimenting in the space, people were really excited about how Ethereum was going to scale. They were talking about things like sharding and all of that sort of stuff that was popular back in 2016 and 2017. And then we didn't really see any of that happen. And I think one of the reasons for that is because Ethereum is such a massive project, such a behemoth, and also completely decentralized. It doesn't have an admin who can come in and flick a few switches and fix it up. And so any great update to Ethereum is a massive technical undertaking. And with software development in general, it's very easy to create a change in your software that has with it some sort of unexpected consequence. And so whenever you have to make a change to something that's already such a massive project, you have to really test it rigorously because people's money is involved as well. And so I think the shift to ETH 2.0 is definitely a non-trivial task, and I really hope that it goes well, and I'm not completely pessimistic about it, but I would say that it's not to be underestimated just what a huge technical achievement it would be to migrate to ETH 2.0 completely.
Yeah, ETH just had a little hard fork a couple of days ago in preparation for their next hard fork in around June 2022 is when they think it's going to happen, which will be when the beacon chain takes over. It's going to be called the Great Merge or something like that. And proof of stake kind of begins. And the more I've been looking into it, the more I've realized that it seems like the architecture of a proof of stake Ethereum is very similar to the Polygon blockchain and how they've set up their validation layer. And so I feel like, especially with Polygon, some of these layer 2 architectures are already kind of doing what Ethereum 2.0 is meant to do. And so I don't think that the successful development of ETH 2.0 is going to be any massive game changer for Ethereum, because we already have all of these other blockchains that are doing what that change is meant to do in a layer 2 kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in June 2022, but I'm not.
Then what? Sorry, Bunny, I interrupt you. But then what is going to happen to the layer 2 solution? I mean, if the Ethereum proof of stake is basically going to include the benefit of layer 2, what's happened to Matic, for example?
Well, I don't think it's going to be quite as successful as some people say, and maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think people like Polygon, the blockchains like Polygon, have such high throughput that they are still miles ahead of the ETH 2.0 implementation in terms of transactions per second and how much throughput they can have in their system. And Polygon isn't even one of the fastest ones. Solana is saying that their system at full capacity is going to be able to do hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. And so I'm not 100% sure what will happen in June 2022, or even if the transition will take place. And if that transition takes place, how effective it will be and how much better it is going to be than the current system. And so I don't think really that it's going to make these layer 2 solutions obsolete, particularly because now they're starting to get large amounts of infrastructure on them, particularly Polygon. There are now so many different blockchain applications on there that people are using every day. So even if ETH 2.0 kind of, quote unquote, kills these layer 2s, I think they're still going to be around for many years to come, purely because they're being used now. They have a lot of utility, and a lot of products have integrated these layer 2 solutions into their applications. And so it's not going to go away overnight.
Okay, what is actually going to change practically when the transition happen? I mean, I hold some Ethereum. Do something happen with my token that has to be transferred somewhere else, or all the technicality also of staking of all this platform? Is that something that is going to disrupt everything, or is just going to be an overnight change and it's going to be all right?
Yeah, so it's built in such a way that the user shouldn't really see much difference. On a technical level, the Ethereum blocks that are being developed right now will look almost identical, except all of the proof of work values, like the difficulty of that certain block, the reward, all that kind of thing, their values are going to be set to 0 in the Ethereum block, but they're not going to be removed because they want backward compatibility on all the projects that are built at the moment. So they don't want to remove values that might break other people's projects on Ethereum. Then the blocks are going to have an extra layer on top of them, which is built by the beacon chain or oracle, whatever you want to call it. And all of the proof of work stuff is going to be stored on that beacon layer that is provided by the beacon. And so as a user of Ethereum, you're not going to have to move your assets into like the stake version of the asset. There's not going to be any great migration. It should, in theory, just kind of continue on with more blocks, but then the new blocks on ETH 2.0 are going to be wrapped with another kind of beacon layer, which will provide all of the proof of stake functionality.
And
okay.
then
My understanding of it is very similar to how Bitcoin Cash went from Bitcoin. And so when Bitcoin Cash, I think it was Bitcoin Cash, forked from Bitcoin, everyone who had Bitcoin then had some Bitcoin Cash. And so if you had Ethereum on the old non-hard forked version, ETH 1.0, if you want to call it, when ETH 2.0 comes out, that's going to be a hard fork. But all your assets will show up on ETH 2.0 chain. And therefore, the applications that are using traditional Ethereum now can flip a switch and say, okay, we're using ETH 2.0 now. And then everyone that had their assets on Ethereum will also have like a clone of those assets on ETH 2.0. So that's my understanding of it.
Okay, and nothing is going to change, or it's not going to change much for projects. They are built on Ethereum.
It's going to change a lot for some projects like mining companies and that kind of thing, because all the equipment that's used to mine Ethereum relies on the proof of work protocol of Ethereum to be useful, or at least they're going to have to start mining something else like Ethereum Classic, because once this transition happens, Ethereum will no longer be proof of work, it'll be proof of stake. And so there's not going to be any miners on Ethereum. It's only going to be the people that have the stake validating the nodes. And so there's going to be a big change for people that are on like a mining level, but there's not going to be any change, hopefully, for people that are building smart contracts or dApps on the system. So
people mining or okay, so basically like NFT project, they won't be impacted.
That's what we're hoping. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's remains to be seen. The system is being implemented in such a way that on a smart contract level, no one should be affected. So all of these NFT platforms, all of these decentralized finance applications, their code isn't going to suddenly break or anything like that. But it will be interesting to see on like an economic level how the price is affected by this transition. Yeah. And if the price is changed a lot and the gas price of doing transactions is changed a lot, then that will have a secondary effect on all of these platforms. But on a technical level and on a protocol level, all of that should stay the same.
Okay, is there an opportunity perhaps to buy, or people should sell and see what's happened? What will be, your consideration around that as this transition is happening?
Well, there's a good chance that Ethereum, as we know it now, will become a new chain, kind of like Ethereum Classic was. And so it might be worth buying a bunch of Ethereum just before the hard fork. And then when you fork, you'll have a bunch of this Ethereum 1.0 and a bunch of Ethereum 2.0. And who knows if Ethereum 1.0 will stick around like Ethereum Classic has. It might just dissolve into nothing and never be used by anybody. But there is a good chance that it will live on as its own blockchain. And so I would say just before the fork, you might as well pick up some Ethereum. And then after the fork, you can always get rid of the Ethereum again. And then you'll have the Ethereum on the old chain as well as on the new chain.
Okay, so shall we spend some time talking about cross-chain, and because this is another challenge on the Ethereum network, and it's something that particularly Umbria is focused on with the bridge. So that might be helpful for some people that are already into DeFi, but they are looking for ways where they can save as much money moving assets around.
Yeah, so basically one of the major issues in cryptocurrency, one of the major problems to be solved, is that all of these different cryptocurrency networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin find it very difficult to communicate with each other in the same trustless way, the same decentralized trustless way that the networks can talk with nodes within the network internally. So basically what that means is when you hold Bitcoin, there is no one organization or one person who's in control of your Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin network that decides what happens to your Bitcoin. And because the Bitcoin network is decentralized, then no one can come in and steal all of your money. The problem with that is that these networks, they're in their little silos and they can't really talk very easily outside of their silos. So if you have Bitcoin and you want to take that over to some kind of decentralized application on Ethereum, it's actually not a very easy process to get that Bitcoin onto Ethereum. So the next major challenge to solve is to create bridges between all of these different networks like Ethereum and Polygon, even Bitcoin, all of the networks, so that we can have these seamless asset migrations between the different networks and have a one unified sort of cohesive cryptocurrency space. So that's what Umbria is working on right now. And what we've developed is the cheapest and the fastest cross-chain bridge between Ethereum and Polygon. And we also have all of the technology there to deploy Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain, which will be happening very soon. And what we're trying to do there is just have a bridge between all of these different cryptocurrency networks so that on a user level, the user doesn't actually have to care whether they're using Solana or Polygon or Ethereum. All they have to care about is what the application does for them. And so right now, it's all very, very fragmented, and we're aiming to solve that problem at the end of the day.
How cheap is the bridge compared to a normal Ethereum transaction?
Well, you go ahead, Barney.
It totally depends on the current price of the Ethereum and Polygon network, but we found it to be up to 10 times cheaper and 10 times faster. And so often it will cost up to $100 or more, even sometimes up to $200 to bridge over with the Polygon official bridge, which is the old way of transacting between Ethereum and Polygon. But with our bridge, it's been as little as $4 and tends to be around $10 to $12, depending on the current gas prices of Polygon and Ethereum.
We've actually had it as low as $1.97 cost for the bridging of Ethereum between the Ethereum network and the Polygon network. And the way that our bridge is set up is that if you're transferring the native asset on a particular chain like Ethereum, so Ethereum has tokens like USDT and all that kind of thing, but it also has its own native asset, which is Ether. And so if you're using the native asset on our bridge, it's even cheaper. So it's been as little as, I think $1.97 was the cheapest it's ever been.
Okay, can we maybe explain a little bit more about that?
About which bit?
About the native assets.
Sure. So all of these different blockchains have their own native currencies that you use to kind of interact with the chain. So with Polygon, they have the Matic token as their native asset, but they also have the ability to deploy other, as a user, you can deploy your own tokens and create your own applications on top of that. And that's a different kind of asset, but it operates in very much the same way on a user level, but on a technical level, it operates a little bit differently. And so with the native assets on these different chains, typically dealing with a native asset is cheaper than dealing with some other token that's been deployed on the network, like at a later date.
Like Wrap Ethereum, for example.
Like Wrapped Ethereum or like Tether or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question that I was asked, is why the APY on the bridge pool and earn changes, changes a lot. Why isn't just a fixed APY that people can just put the money in, forget about it, and look back in 3 months and then they've earned a lot of money? Why that change? Obviously, it's not happening only on Umbria. That's also, for example, something on the Aave protocol.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is basically the APY is calculated depending on how often people bridge that asset between the two chains. And so the way that system works is people provide liquidity into our system, and then someone will want to bridge from one blockchain to another. When they do that, they incur a fee that then goes to the person who provided the liquidity to facilitate that transaction. And so the more people bridge, the more fees the system generates, the higher the APY. And so the APY is fluctuating constantly because the demand to bridge is also constantly fluctuating as well. And we foresee that APY is going to go up as more and more bridging occurs. But also the more people that stake assets into our system, the less the APY is as well, because it gets distributed to more people. And so the two factors for the APY are how many people are providing liquidity to the system, so how much money is in the system, and how many people are bridging and then earning fees for those providers. So the more people bridge, the higher the APY. The more people provide liquidity, the less the APY.
Okay. Okay. And the other chain expected to be integrated by Umbria, we mentioned Binance Smart Chain. You mentioned Solana a few times, so maybe there is something on the radar. What about Phantom? Why everybody is talking about Phantom?
So basically, with the problem with Ethereum that everyone has noticed over the last year is that the gas price, the gas fee for doing any transactions on Ethereum has gone to the moon in a bad way, right? And so there's a lot of different projects that are trying to solve that problem by creating various layer 2 solutions like Phantom, like Avalanche, like optimistic Ethereum, and they're all trying to solve the same problem, which is gas fees are too high. And so there's different amounts of demand for users to use these different projects. Some of them are better than others. Some of them have bigger communities than others. And what we're trying to do with the bridge is basically just fill that gap of demand for users who want to get onto these chains, but don't have a way to do so. So with Umbria, our philosophy is basically to say, we will implement onto our bridge any chain that has a community that wants to be able to bridge there. And so as new chains come up, and new communities are made, the demand will change, and we'll add the most important bridges to those communities.
Yeah, and to go a bit further with your question, why Phantom? I think that there is a very one of the very important points of all of these layer 2 chains that they must adhere to get a good community is for them to be decently decentralized and also decently secure. And at the end of the day, security is the most important thing, and decentralization is one of the aspects that make something more secure in cryptocurrency. And so we've seen Binance Smart Chain not being particularly decentralized. We've also seen Solana being not particularly decentralized, and also both of those chains have gone down for large periods of time when they've been attacked. Polygon has had a few security scares recently. They just paid a $2 million bug bounty to someone who managed to do a double spend attack on their network. And so because of these problems that all these other blockchains are having, people are looking at other systems like Avalanche, like Phantom, and really any other layer 2 solution that can prove itself to be really decentralized, really secure, and also offer that low transaction fee and high speed of transaction.
Okay. So yeah, then obviously we will have to see who of this project is going to develop and is going to become more popular than the other one.
Our opinion is that there's probably going to be quite a few different chains that have different use cases, and so
Oscar, we are saying different use cases, like what? Can we expand on that? Because
sure.
I get you on the like multi-chain future, but I understand Bitcoin and Ethereum, but what about the other one? What kind of specific use case?
Well, for example, with Bitcoin, people still transact Bitcoin with each other. And the use case for Bitcoin is that it has a lot of legacy. It's well trusted across the community. Everyone knows what it is. And so that's how it has the use case of being able to transact billions of dollars at a time. People know what it is. It has a trusted brand. So that's Bitcoin's use case. Then Ethereum came along and it had smart contracts. So there's a brand new use case for Ethereum. And then now that we have all these layer 2 solutions that have maybe different advantages for each other, maybe some of them have a faster block time, which means that it can compute transactions faster. Or maybe they have a bigger block size so they can store more data in that block. Or maybe it's cheaper because it has some kind of different data structure with how it processes transactions. And so they all have maybe subtle differences in what can be achieved on these different blockchains on the application level. So in that sense, they have different use cases.
Another example is that Polygon is looking at implementing ZK rollups in their system, and that'll provide excellent privacy on their blockchain. And so there might be some transactions that you want to be private, that you don't want other people to see, and there might be other transactions that you do want people to see. Like when if you wanted to purchase a house with cryptocurrency, for example, you might want to have that transaction public to prove that you've sent assets to somebody if you ever need to prove that in court or something like that. And then there might be other transactions where you don't want anyone to know about the transaction. Let's say you're purchasing a gift for Christmas for your partner and you don't want them to see what you bought for them. You could purchase something using Monero or using ZK rollups on Polygon when they are released. And so we're going to have different blockchains that are used for different types of transactions and also have particular features in their protocol that allow for different types of applications.
Okay, I think that was a really great point. Interesting to see what's happened with Polygon and this privacy implementation. So I think that will be enough for today. I think there was a lot of things that we cover. What I would like to do next time is perhaps discuss a little bit more about NFTs and maybe invite one of the projects that is working with the Umbria on the show. And see, what kind of conversation about NFTs, because there is really a lot happening all the time. And I think that might be kind of like an interesting conversation. So thank you so much for today. And thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a great chat.